Thank you, Chairman. I do apologise for my voice if it fails. It will fail.
Yeah.
Thank you indeed. I would just like to propose the adoption of CB 44, Chairman. I don't know whether you want to do it en masse or per item. There are 6 there. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Go through each one, but at the moment I'm proposing the whole lot.
Okay. Councillor Heslop, do you respond to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's just a point. Sorry, excuse me. I didn't get up. It's just a point that I'd like to ask the leader about CB 44, Section A, Section 1. The council tax for the less well-off, for the less well-off in our society. Could you tell us what impact it will have, i.e. how much it will cost for, I hate the term, but that term, working poor, for the less well-off members of our society? How much will this increase from 8% of the council tax, as I remember it, to 15%, will actually cost that segment of society? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are you going to respond to that, Councillor Thompson? Councillor Thompson will respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can tell Councillor Heslop that I've done a bit of research into this, purely for my own interest, if you like, but also to make sure that we are not, how can I put it, doing something that would really harm people that he refers to as the bottom rung of the ladder. In a Band A property, the effect of the increase will be approximately £1.50 per week. But I have taken up with Brian Bottle as to what safety nets we have within RDC. For example, we have a discretionary housing payment. We have a situation where we'll consider applications for exceptional hardship. And I can also point out that the introduction of the 8.5% charge has had no noticeable effect on the collection rate over the last 3 years since it was introduced. The effect of the £1.50 per week, or the increase, will be, on current figures, will be £20,000 or thereabouts to Richmond District Council. And I personally think that we are not, how can I put it, acting in an immoral or improper way, which 1 or 2 people have indicated that they think that is the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you wish to respond?
Yeah, I just think that the figures that I saw indicated that, not Band A, but the middle band, that it could be up to £200 a year that this lower rung of our society would be expected to pay. And indeed, in the report that Brian Bottle made, I think he was working on Band D. And I'm also surprised that we are dealing with Band A when actually we should be dealing with them mid-band thing. But I think, from my research, it could cost these people £200 a year, which I do not think is equitable or fair. I think the alternative that was given was that if we didn't increase it, it would cost all the taxpayers £50 a year. And that's the decision that's been made to fill the coffers from the poor. And the figures in the report were in excess of £20,000 a year. I think they were nearer 50. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that. Do you wish to respond to it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I don't think the figure's correct of what you've just said of Councillor Heslop of £200 per year. But I would point out that we have set forward a proposal to freeze council tax over the current year, whereas the previous administration increased the council tax for over 3 of the 4 years, which automatically must have meant that people who were paying the 8.5% charge, as it was then, and is now, would have to pay more money.
Councillor Curran. Councillor Curran.
Thank you, Chair. I think I mentioned this way back in September, October, when the leader was talking about the 0%, because at the time you were consulting people in the public. Not many people responded, but you did ask them their thoughts on this particular issue. If you have nothing, or next to nothing, no matter how much more you're asked to give, it's a lot. If you're comfortably off and someone says pay £1.50 a week, you don't miss it. I pay £4 for my Saturday newspaper. I don't miss it. But if you're on benefits, if you're a disabled person on benefits, your benefits aren't going up, because we seem to have this national thing happening in here, not a local thing, not caring about local people, but a national ethos that says we're all in it together. Well, we're not all in it together, because the people who are struggling at the bottom, whether they be on low pay, whether they be sick, whether they be disabled, their benefits aren't going up. And we're actually asking them to pay more at a time when we are loudspeakering and shouting across the press what a wonderful place Richmondshire is going to be, and that we are all going to have a 0% increase in council tax. But we expect the people who have the least, and this isn't a choice thing, because if they don't pay it, they can head down the road to eviction. And although Mr. Bottle said it didn't affect anybody, it didn't affect anybody, because some of us are out there going to charities, raising money, giving money ourselves to get that eviction notice taken back, to keep someone in their homes. So why, if it is a small amount of money to us, aren't we getting it from somewhere else? Because why are we picking on the people who are most vulnerable in our community? And it's not masses of people. And I say, yes, you could have a rule that any new claimant pays 15%. But the people who long-term, who have been on 8%, why are we giving them such a big rise when the rest of the community, we are proudly saying to them 0%, and 0% seems that it's important. So I think putting another 7% on someone, that's important too. And it's about time we started to represent and shout for those people at the bottom, those people who are struggling, those people who are knocking on neighbours' doors saying, do you have some money for me to put money in the meter so that I can boil a kettle and have a warm drink? Please review it before tonight. Please don't just all put your hands up and say, party politically I'm going to vote, because this is not right.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cullen?
Chairman, I wasn't going to say anything, but Councillor Thompson was quite blasé about a £1.50 per week increase. And we're also talking about the £3 per year on the waste bins. I said at the last meeting, I don't think somebody quite understood it, in the last 4 years, the council tax went up £1.70 per year, just over 3p per week. And yet you just said £1.50 a week, not a year, a week. And £3 on the green bins. That was 2 years increases in the last administration. So please don't say about the increase by whatever it was. £6.80 over 4 years, £1.70 per year. And you just straightened, oh, it'll only be £1.50. It might be more, but it'll only be £1.50 per week. I think you've got your understanding all mixed up. And this is to achieve this supposed wonderful 0%, but they're having to pay it on the fees and charges and everything. And all you're saying is, everybody out there, if you carry on as we were in the last 4 years, you'd be paying £1.74 of you per year. And I know Councillor Petch mentioned at the corporate board that everybody pays council tax. 3p per week increase over the last 4 years. We're talking about £1.50 for the more vulnerable people in our society. And I think you're out of proportion with what you're trying to achieve.
Councillor Parsons?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, £1.70 per annum is a 2% increase. But now, if you happen to be a striver but struggling to strive in an area with low unemployment but high rates of people earning minimum wage or less, working part-time, 0-hour contracts, you're telling them that they're going to have to find £78 a year. That is a massive amount of money to people who can ill afford to feed and keep themselves. And it's wrong. Morally, fundamentally wrong. So please, back down, go back to the 8.5%, and let's find an alternative way of finding this money. It's much more important that we support the poor and vulnerable in our communities than you balance the books this way.
Councillor Wilson-Petch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'll listen to everybody, but it's quite interesting that this went out to consultation. I agree that there weren't a huge amount of people that participated, but it's 31%, the highest percentage, actually voted for an 80% reduction. So I think we're absolutely on the lines with 85% as the target we're looking at. But more people actually voted for a larger increase. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Glover?
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation that each household in Richmond Shire should pay at least 15% council tax, that's what before us tonight. Corporate board recommended this figure following a consultation, as Councillor Wilson-Petch pointed out, over a 6-week period. And a third of the respondents were actually people in receipt of council tax reduction. And as Councillor Wilson-Petch said, an overwhelming amount actually voted for what we're proposing, or even a larger amount. Asking each household to pay at least 15% of their council tax will produce around £19,500, equivalent to a 0.5% increase on council tax. This rate would be for 1 year only. We're going through major changes, major welfare changes with regard to universal credit, and there will need to be further consultation next year. It only applies to households of working age, not pensioners. And to compare us with our neighbours, if you like, as examples, Hambledon expect their households to pay at least 20% of council tax bills, and Harrogate, for example, expect all households to pay 100% council tax bills. So we are not out of line with our neighbours at all, Chair.
Thank you. Final one, Councillor Curran.
Thank you. What's that saying? Lies, damn lies and statistics. Well, consultations are about as bad, especially when you quote 30-odd% of people who responded voted for 20%. How many people was that? From my understanding, it was something like 0.6%. And I know Councillor Parsons filled it in, and I know I filled it in, and I didn't vote for the 20%, so it was a very, very small amount of money, and you're on dangerous ground to quote when so few people actually responded. And the people that it affected, did they even know about the consultation? I would say not, because most of them are not into what we do to mess up their lives.
Councillor Dale.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I would really like to know, because figures can be sort of like screwed, sort of like that. Do we know exactly how many consultations came in, as in an actual number? Was it 110? Was it 2,000? So is that what we're dealing with, actually, the numbers that were filled in? And for somebody who represents a ward where actually this will make an impact and have a difference. I'd like to know how many was filled in from my ward in particular, please, because that's who I'm interested in, who I represent, which happens to be the ward of